Today, we're going to take a look together at what swing is, and I'll give you 4 exercises to practice it. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Yannick and welcome to my channel. Here, we talk about music, but most of all, I show you all kinds of tips for the saxophone. So don't hesitate to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when I post a new video. So today, we're going to look together at what swing is and how to interpret it. And most importantly, how do you practice it? At the end of this video, I'll give you 4 exercises so you can practice and improve your swing, if you already know how to interpret it. But these 4 exercises will really help you make progress in that direction. First of all, we're going to analyze what swing is. Well, swing is simply a different way of interpreting eighth notes. When we talk about swing, we're talking about triplets. I'll come back to that in a moment, but if we look at what it is. So first, 2 eighth notes, 2 even eighth notes are, just like the name says, even. So, let's say you're playing at a tempo like this, 2, 3, 4, your eighth notes will go like this, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. If we decided to swing the eighth notes, what we'll do is play them like a triplet with a quarter note and an eighth note. So, your triplet will be split in 2, but on the quarter note, you'll basically have 2 eighth notes included, obviously. So, in your triplet, you'll have a quarter note and an eighth note. The quarter note contains 2 eighth notes, so it's like 2 for 1. So, instead of having even eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, I'll have what we call swung eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And here, you notice that I was snapping my fingers. 4 straight eighth notes on every beat. And when I play swung eighth notes, I snap on 2 and 4. And that's really going to help you. Actually, you need to set your metronome to beats 2 and 4. And that's really not easy at first. An exercise I can suggest right away is, without your instrument, set your metronome to beats 2 and 4, like here, 1, 2. Let your metronome run like that and count in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4. As opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4. We're used to doing it this way, but doing 1, 2, 3, 4 is harder. You can try it with your fingers if you want, but I recommend setting your metronome and counting out loud. That way, you'll know if you can figure out where beats 2 and 4 are. So, obviously, if you want a tempo of 120, you'll set your metronome to 60. Since we're skipping a beat, we just set it on beats 2 and 4. And now, you can practice on your instrument. Once you're comfortable doing that, and I recommend doing it with the metronome after my bar. Today, we're also going to do it with tracks at different tempos, just to make it a bit more interesting. But you have to be careful because tracks can sometimes make us develop crutches. I see it often with many of you. It's because with a track, you can kind of cheat, so to speak, because even if you're not exactly on the right timing, you'll still get away with it. But with the metronome, it won't wait for you. So, if you stray from the metronome, right away you'll be off track. And then, it's not going to work. So do it with the metronome 75% of the time. When things are going well, you can have fun with a track, no problem. Either way, I want to let you know that the 3 tracks we're going to use today, I'll make them available for download just below the video. So don't hesitate to go download them. What's also very, very important to keep in mind is that with swing, you have to be careful. It's about triplets, like I explained earlier. Don't confuse it with the dotted 8th note and 16th note, which people coming from classical music often tend to play. That sounds like a kind of forced skipping, which really isn't swing. Swing needs to be relaxed, really relaxed, okay. So, it shouldn't sound like that. That's not good. It's fine when that's what's written in a certain context. More in classical music, but for swing, it really needs to be as relaxed as possible. You also need to know that with different tempos, the swing will be different. You can allow yourself to have a more relaxed swing, if you want, when the tempo is slower. And that we'll look at later with the 3 tracks. I deliberately gave you 3 tracks at different tempos so you can hear the difference. When the tempo is faster, you'll see that my swing will also be faster, obviously. But let's say it's more laid back when it's slow. The slower it is, the more you can allow yourself to go laid back. And I'll go even further by saying that some people tend to be a bit behind the time, behind the metronome. Some people are more ahead. In a swing context, I think it's better to be a little behind. I'll show you what I mean here. I'll give you an example where I'll play behind the time, meaning a bit behind the metronome, and then ahead. And you'll see there's a big difference between the two. See, there's a big difference between the two. Sometimes it's more appropriate to be behind, and sometimes, on the contrary, it's better to be ahead. Now I'm going to give you an example with 3 different tempos to show you that the swing changes depending on the tempo. I'll start with a track at 76, then 96, and finish with one at 136. And you'll see that the faster the tempo gets, the more the crushes tend to become even. For example, if you had an extremely fast tempo like 300, you can hear the 16ths. Charlie Parker playing at that tempo, the 8th notes will all be even at that point. It's inevitable because it's too fast to be able to apply swing. The slower the tempo, the more possible it is to swing. Now we're going to look at the 4 exercises I mentioned earlier. So, we'll go step by step, like I often like to do. The first will be to use only 1 note and play 8th notes. Sometimes, you can also skip some beats to catch your breath if you want. But we'll make things easier by using just 1 note. Here, I'm going to use the note C on my tenor saxophone. So, in concert pitch, that would be A B flat, and for the alto saxophone, A G. But really, you could do this on any note, it doesn't matter. So, I'll set the track to 95, I'll give you a short example to show you how it sounds, and then you can practice it at home with the track. For the second exercise we're going to do, we'll use the first 5 notes of the C scale. Simply C, D, E, F, G, back to C. C, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, C. I picked the first 5 notes of the C scale. It could have been anything, but these are probably the 5 easiest notes you know. Most likely, because when we start playing music, we learn these first 5 notes. So, let's try that now with the track. That's how it goes. For the third exercise, we're going to use the D Dorian. So I picked the D Dorian mode just because I picked the D Dorian mode. That is, it could be anything, it could be any mode, any scale. So don't hesitate. If you're more comfortable with the C scale, use the C scale. What's important, though, to make sure it fits the timing, is that you have to stop at the last note, either of the scale or the mode. So if you choose D Dorian, you'll stop at C and then go back down. We'll take a look at that anyway. And if you chose the C major scale, for example, you go up to B and then back down to C. You don't go up to the high C. You don't go to the last note. You don't repeat the tonic in the end, because it won't work with the timing. So, what does it sound like with the D Dorian mode? I'll show you that right now. Now we're at the 4th step, the 4th exercise, which will simply be to improvise using the notes you've just practiced. So, if you used the D Dorian mode, use the D Dorian mode to improvise. If you used another scale, use that scale. Now it's your turn to explore. I'll give you a quick example of how it can sound. There you go, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave me a like and feel free to share it if you think it could help someone. We'll see each other in the next video. See you soon. Bye.